What's up, everybody? Watch this politically provoked BPF hash it out, bury the hatchet show, which is kind of interesting. You know, I'm in my car this whole time. I thought the Bluetooth worked to actually pick up what I'm saying. Turns out it's always just been through the phone. It's probably why the quality is so horrible. I think the app it doesn't go through the internal. It doesn't pick up internal audio, only external. Whatever. You hear my shitty hick music, my shitty country music, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Probably better to not have a destructive war back and forth, despite the entertainment. It probably causes more harm than good, despite the entertainment factor. And you can still argue about issues without having a full-on war. You could still, criticize segments without getting personal, just like any other show would. Yeah, I got brought up as well, too. Because I clipped the thing. It was shocking to me. Here's this community that is A-okay with everything, including platforming the worst people. The thing that they hate the most is cancel culture, reporting people, doxing especially. And yet, what did we see this weekend? Norvin details his history of fucking being involved in doxing, politically provoked, or at least his circles. And then he fucking drops her name on stream. And people are still talking shit about me and not that. It's like, what? It's more, basically the rule is, if we don't like somebody and they do things we don't like, we're going to use that against them. But if there's somebody on our side and they do it, well, whatever. Like Ethan Ralph, proud doxer, professional doxer. Well, it's Ethan Ralph, his show is cool. And we want to get on his show, so, what can you say about that? Yeah, Politically Provoked keeps fucking lying and saying, I reported their shit because I didn't get it let on the show. Do you think I just report anyone who doesn't let me on the fucking show? That'd be a lot of shows. No, it's specifically because they let terrorists on their fucking show to spread their message and promote them. Right? They let people on that talk about canceling people like me from the fucking country and others. Yeah, we want to cancel these people and get rid of them in their entirety. But you can't try to cancel them. That's the hypocrisy that exists. The double standards that exist in these circles. Oh, we can platform anybody and let them talk about physically canceling people, but you can't cancel us. You have to give us our safe space. So yeah, they keep saying, they're never going to be honest. That would be a pipe dream. Hopefully someday they disavow their former selves, but they keep lying and saying they were canceled because somebody said the N-word. It's nobody gives a shit about the N-word or the K-word compared to the platforming of people calling for physical exterminations or expulsions or the glorification of violence. All of that stuff that's just a permanent fixture of a place like Politically Provoked. You know, the only other places where such an environment exists are like neo-Nazi circles, like Patrick Bateman that runs the Wymerica show. What show does he run? What the fuck is the name of it? The Killing Fields. I forget the name of his famous show from back in the day. They used to call this is what they do in these circles. They call the terrorists saints, like Saint Tarrant, Saint whatever the guy that shot up the church in South Carolina was, with the bowl cut. Well, they had like the Bowl Patrol, and then Saint Bowers, Saint Tarrant, I'm forgetting all the names, but a bunch of sick fucks. Like, that's what happens in these circles. That's who Politically Provoked promotes. And it's a permanent fixture in their circle, in their community. Especially in places like on their Gilded and in their chat. They don't care. They happily platform that stuff, you know? So it's like, this is why people call for them to be canceled. And that's a decent thing to do. That's why I went public with it, as opposed to keeping it secret, which I easily could have done. It's like, no, this is the correct thing to do. We have the First Amendment, and part of that is not associating with people. You know, like, debate, everyone glorifies debate, but when it comes to the very worst actors, I don't think debating them is the end-all be-all. I think negating them is the end-all be-all. You know, I guess that rhymes. Don't debate, negate. Like, there's nothing wrong with debate as long as it's done in the right way, but it's not like this solve all. If it doesn't solve all of society's issues, you just debate issues, and then everyone will side on the side that makes sense and won't be indoctrinated by horrible ideologies. I don't know, but I'm cool with the actions I've taken in the past. But like, what else has gone on that's interesting lately? Certainly this conflict in the Ukraine. Not that it's entertainment, but it's something that's important to pay attention to. You know, I kind of see a parallel with dealing with, well, Putin is a bad actor, despite what dissidents are saying. Who, I gotta come up with my own term for like the dissident right or alt-right, because I gotta come up with a term that works for me, because these terms are imperfect. I don't really like this dissident right, because there's dissidents who aren't toxic, like so many in the dissident right. It's like a name that gives them too much credit, and the alt-right is kind of played out. I don't know. That's a buzzword, but I need a better descriptor. I gotta think about that. But basically, they engage in this whataboutism where they're like nihilists, where there is no morality and everything is just a power play. So like the U.S. is just trying to exercise power, and the Russia is the same thing. They're just trying to exercise power. So what the U.S. and NATO what they're trying to do is no different from what Russia is trying to do. Just protect themselves. In fact, NATO is worse because they're more powerful. They're the globalists. They control everything. This is their narrative, basically. And Russia is fending off the globalists, so they're the good guys. So this is basically what Nick Fuentes says. Either that or they're morally equivalent. And the U.S. is an evil empire that speaks in platitudes but doesn't really believe them. And I've heard these arguments, but I never bought into them. Like, Nazi Germany and the United States are on the same moral plane, and the National Socialists didn't do anything worse than what the United States has done throughout its history. It's just, the platitudes are just a pure power play. But this just seems ridiculous to me when you imagine what the world under the influence of the Soviets or Vladimir Putin or China, like, what would happen if these powers weren't checked like they currently are now? Or Iran, if Iran just ran rampant over the entire Middle East and there's no checks and balances on them. Or China or Russia. We're seeing it now, right? Like, Vladimir Putin just says, Ukraine's not a country, and we're threatened by their independence and NATO, even though, like, we already took over a bunch of their country. We're just going to take over the rest. And who would prevent this if not for the United States? Like, the United States is the sole power that can put together a coalition to prevent something like this from happening. It still hasn't been said and done. Russia could still win this war, but they could still lose it too, or have a tactical or political defeat like they had in Afghanistan, So it should be pretty obvious I reject this moral equivalence between the West and the autocratic regimes. And this is what's similar to you could apply the same concepts to online actors and say these white nationalists that are proposing ethnic cleansing, like, they're just morally the same as anyone else who's looking out for their interests. It's just that the globalists have condemned them as being evil, so they're oppressed online because they can't say what they really think, but they're just expressing the same sentiments as any other ethnic group, like Israel or something. These are the retarded arguments made in these circles. But we have to see that what we are as a society and what we stand for is morally better than what autocratic regimes stand for, like China, Russia, Iran. That it really is a better system of morality and running society in the world. So I think that can't be lost. Otherwise, the U.S. is just perceived as a selfish empire that doesn't care about any ideals. And I don't know. But luckily, it's just a pretty small group of toxic people on the internet that gets a lot of buzz because they say ridiculous things, like Fuentes or the NJP or whatever. Now, I think there's plenty of ways to criticize the United States and that it should do better in its foreign incursions, both to the residents of those countries and to our soldiers and others. Like, we've always been able to do that in our society, whether it be what we did in Iraq, Vietnam, what we're doing now, that's totally fine. There's a difference between doing that and, saying Saddam was in the right, or Putin is in the right, or I'm rooting for China because China's based and the U.S. is the power behind the evil in the world. Well, I think this is a big moment. I mean, not I think. It's a huge moment, what's going on in Ukraine. And if the West can defeat them militarily or negate what Russia is doing, I think it has huge implications. Because all the democratic countries of the world, or the vast majority of them, Western countries, stood up collectively to a tyrant and defeated them from expanding. It has huge implications for negating Chinese expansion, whether it be Taiwan or somewhere else. It would be difficult for China to invade. It's kind of expanded. I mean, China and the communists, they kind of expanded to the limits of what their borders were, both mountains and sea. They could invade Taiwan, but if Russia is defeated and suffers what would be a pretty catastrophic blow, that's definitely going to make the Chinese think twice about invading Taiwan or Iran invading some other country. That doesn't seem very likely. They more foment revolution. That's a different struggle. But I think it's really important, would have huge implications, would be great for the Western Alliance to negate what Russia is doing, but also evade head-to-head war. It's basically a proxy war at this point. We don't want to be directly fighting the Russians. That's risky. But enabling the Ukrainians to do it is admirable. It seems like morally we should be doing more than we are, allowing this slaughter to take place, but realistically it just risks expanding it, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too many more thoughts. Like, I hadn't made a video about it really, but BPF exposed Adolf for imitating my account, cleared me of saying the ridiculous shit he was saying. But I haven't heard much of him lately, and interacted with the guy enough back in the day, so like who really cares? Anyway, I think we're good for now. Talk to y'all later.